by the way, Carrie pointed out to me, you're not the studio audience. They're the studio audience.
You're just the viewers. Sorry.
Yeah. Can you dub in a few more people so it looked more popular? That'd be great.
And a real laugh track.
Yeah, and a real laugh track. All right, so let's move on to travel day, the day before. Oh, that's right, we even lost the peanut gallery here, Christina. So, before you leave for your race destination, if you're flying there, you want everything you need for the race in a carry-on duffel bag. I can't emphasize that enough. You don't want to get to your destination and you've got a race the next day or 2 days later and you find out that your running shoes and everything that you need for the race is enjoying vacationing in Tokyo. And now you're scrambling in an expo in a local running store and you're trying to reconstruct everything you need, okay? I think you should do that even for driving to San Luis Obispo. I mean, you know, in those spy movies, you know, where they have the attaché case handcuffed to you, you know, I think that's how you want to treat the stuff you need for the race. Keep it in a discrete pile as you're assembling it at home and then keep it all together. And a single duffel bag's a good way to carry that stuff. So go to your expo. Some of you will have the opportunity to go a couple of days before. You need to pick up your race bib and your timing chip. What's more and more common these days, including San Luis Obispo, is having the timing chip incorporated into the bib itself. And so back in the old days, you used to have to deal with attaching a chip separately to your shoe. You still get that in some races, but that's becoming less and less common. And it needs to go in the front. You can get pulled off of certain courses if you're putting it in the back. You know, if you do want some race day photos, that's the only way they'll be able to identify you to tell you that you have photos available. When you're at your expo, you want to breathe through. This isn't shop till you drop. If this is the day before your race, you want to minimize the amount of time you spend on your feet. It's a rest day. It's the day before your race. So, could very well be that that expo is a place where you can pick up some of the last minute race provisions, but it's also entirely possible that there'll be almost nothing that you need in the way of Body Glide, or you're going to get food gels. So you can research your expo in advance. That's part of the knowledge is power that I talked about earlier, to figure out if you're going to be able to get some of the things you need to supplement. Don't go wine tasting in San Luis Obispo or your other destination, or, hey, I'm in Paris. I've never been to Paris before. I'm going to go see the Eiffel Tower. Again, the day before the race is a very, very, very important spoil yourself and lay around lazy rest day. You want to minimize what you do. For a drive-to event, you should bring everything you need to eat the following morning for the race or 2 mornings later with you. Otherwise, you got to go out and buy it. If you're flying to a marathon destination, then you've got to be able to find, hey, these are my old standbys that I know I can rely upon that I need to consume on race morning. So if you haven't brought it with you on the day before, you need to go out and buy that stuff. You go to a team training inspiration party, a lot of times bananas and oranges and fruit are laid out on the tables. But if you're somebody who can't really stomach a green banana and there's just a bunch of green bananas on the table, you're not going to want to rely on that for your food. So the day before your race, you're going to go to your inspiration party. Those used to be called pasta parties until we changed the name more appropriately to the real objective of inspiring you for your event, and there'll always be honorary speakers. don't miss your inspiration party, but it is also going to be a pasta party, meaning it's going to be a carbo load, emphasized type meal. So by the night before, you're going to have everything laid out that you're going to need for the race the next day. You've gone to the expo, you've taken care of what you need. Dress your chair. Got a roommate, team in training assigned roommate. Dibs, which chair is yours that you are going to lay out just kind of like Superman changing in a phone booth. Oh, I'm sorry, some of you young people don't know what a phone booth is. I'm sorry.
What's a phone booth?
Yeah, excellent. So, I mean, literally, take the chair, drape your shirt, your shorts, or if you're running in pants, your gloves, you're gonna want your bib already safety pinned onto your shirt. Typically I'll put my shirt on and then pin it on, not stabbing myself, so that I know it's gonna be positioned in the place that I want it to be. You're taking care of all of that the day and night before. So there's no thought process that has to happen on the morning of the race. You're just going to wake up and it's all there, and you just need to crawl into it. Not, oh crap, where did I put my running shoes? Oh, where's my GPS enabled watch? Is that in my luggage? So you're going to plan that all the day before, so it's just there. And you'll see, if you're Facebook friends with a lot of other TNT people, a lot of people taking pictures of the Dress My Chair.
You have to tag too.
Yeah, and I get all these annoying tags the day before the race. I don't know why that is. I don't know how that's happened. If there's a possibility of rain, in terms of the planning and what you're laying out, maybe some sort of like a thin nylon shell or something like that. What's your routine to follow on race morning? Coffee drinkers in the room? Are you going to drink coffee? Coffee is a diuretic. It's going to dehydrate you a little bit. Oh, hell yeah, you're going to drink coffee. Because you're addicts, okay? You people are addicted to this stuff. It's a drug. Yeah. And one of the really nice things about coffee, it makes you go poo. That is a great thing to have happen in the comfort of my hotel room before I head out to the porta potties and the race site. Okay, you really want to take care of that in advance. It's warm, and it's going to prevent that caffeine headache that's going to hit you at mile 18. Where the heck did that come from? And it's going to help you take care of business. So if you're a coffee drinker, and we talked about this before, an equal quantity of water or another clear beverage will offset whatever the diuretic effect of that coffee. You bet I'm having my coffee on race morning. Food, it's whatever's worked for you during the course of the season. We've talked about how the long trainings were all just dress rehearsals for the main event. So whatever's been working for you up until now, that's what you're going to continue on race morning. If you read the packaging of like GU and some of the other food gels, there's some that actually say eat one 45 minutes before the race. That's because they're selling product. And the more you eat, the more they can sell it. Again, standard food will suffice. One thing we've not really talked about is the no analgesics. So that's the Advil, really any sort of pain med is bad, particularly for a full marathon, okay? You can actually have things happen like die from oral analgesics. the physiological changes that it causes to your body. It's a really serious, big deal. I've become a fan of topical analgesics as a result. That would be, ointments and creams that you apply to injury sites. Your body's not going to absorb anywhere near the same concentration of the analgesic as you would if you're taking it orally. And then you're applying it to the specific site. I'm an icy, hot, stinky, locker room smell cream spreader. Yes, Chris.
What about Alsys, which is
same.
aspirin?
But is it topical?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's got aspirin, I believe.
I think
Some
it's
kind
fine.
of.
Yeah, I think it's
Anybody know
fine.
Alsys? Anybody know? Okay.
I own it. I've used it
I
a
believe
little
that
bit.
it's got some kind of pain relief in it.
But my point being, the rate of absorption of something like that is going to be dramatically less than oral analgesic. Sweats versus discardable. You should do both. So I'm going to go into this in a little more detail. So you're going to be given at your expo. So San Luis Obispo, there's a specific bag you'll be given that you'll actually attach your bib number to. It's probably something that you tear off of the bottom of your bib and it has a hole, and you'll slip it on and attach it somehow to a gear check bag. And some racers are very, very, very specific about what you can use as a gear check bag because of the Boston Marathon bombing of a year and 1 day ago. A lot of races, it's got to be clear plastic. They need to see what you've got there, and they'll only accept their own bag. So San Luis Obispo, as an example, has their own bag. You're going to want clothes that you're going to put on after you're done. Talked a little bit about this earlier this season. Even though it'll warmed up during the course of the day, you're going to be sopping wet by the time you finish. Your body temperature is going to start dropping because you're not exerting anymore, and you can really chill. In San Luis Obispo, you're kind of standing around in an open space by the Madonna Inn there, maybe the breeze is blowing through, and you can really chill. It'd be great to have a change of shirt sitting in there so you can take off the sopping wet one and put on a dry one, maybe a jacket, maybe a pair of pants, because you're gonna get, unless it's a hot day, you're gonna get cold after you're done. So that's the sweats check stuff. The other thing you want to do is the disposables. And so like last race I did, I bought cotton gloves, 2 for $3. If your extremities get cold, even though I'm frugal, I actually threw those down at an aid station and said goodbye to $1.50 during a race instead of tucking them in my back pocket like I normally would and then launder them. You want to be able to keep yourself warm so that you're not relying on the gear check stuff to keep warm before the gun goes off. You may be at the start for a half hour, an hour and 15 minutes before the race starts. The whole time standing around because it's really early in the morning. It's before 6 a.m. in San Luis Obispo. Okay, you want to be able to keep warm. So layering is a key. That's where the discardable sweatshirt comes in. That's where the garbage bag comes in. I will layer up with, I've actually started full marathons wearing sweatpants that I discard. You actually have to stop and pull them off to do that. I often will wear a sweatshirt and over that the garbage bag, depending on how cold it's going to be. Because these are things you're just going to say goodbye to. A lot of races, it could be, a new cheap sweatshirt, and you're throwing it down, it's going to get picked up by the race crew. They'll launder it, they'll donate it to a local charity if it still has some value to it. but you're going to want to do those things. So, I mean, I've literally, one time I ran a marathon that was so cold, I was the man from GLAAD. I wore this garbage bag, the gun goes off, I'm wearing these skimpy little singlet and micro short things, and the sun, we're in this valley, so it's daylight, but the sun's rays didn't hit me until mile 10. I was the man from GLAAD. I'm passing people on the course, and I would look at these facial expressions as I'm passing them, because all they would hear is Russell, 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 and it's like, what is this thing coming up behind me? And this human garbage bag goes running past them. I was literally 10 miles in when the sun's rays finally hit me, tore off the bag, waited till the next aid station and chucked it. So it is the antithesis of everything that we've told you about running garb, which is, breathable fabric and that kind of stuff, because it's not. The whole idea is you're trying to retain the warmth underneath the plastic. So, assistant coach next season and current mentor Aaron Kelly ran a Boston qualifier at Napa, 26.2 miles in a garbage bag, because it rained 26.2 miles, and she decided, why would I take this garbage bag off? It's the only thing that's keeping me dry. So race morning, and it'll vary, and you'll get specific instructions from Megan and Adam. For those of you at San Luis Obispo, you're going to meet up with your team on the morning of the race. You're going to do a lot of go team type stuff, photos, some inspiration. Once you get to the race start area, one of the first things you should do is go to the sweat check and get that out of the way. Because again, you're not relying on the contents of that sweat check bag to keep yourself warm. You've already layered up with other stuff. Then you need to get in the porta potty line, and after you're done with the porta potty line, some coaches would tell you get back in the porta potty line. You want to make sure you've taken care of that. The lines can be very long. San Luis Obispo website assures you that there's lots of them. Yeah, lots is relative. Stretching, you may want to do a little bit of dynamic stretching, but you're not going to do something crazy like aerobics. I've actually been at races where they have somebody leading aerobics. That's not part of your routine. Don't follow that. And then when you go to the start area, you need to self-seed based on, with a lot of these races, they're assigned corrals based on your predicted finish time, but there's still a lot of races out there where they're assuming that people are going to go to the right place and that you're going to self-seed based on your projected finish. So there'll be signs out there that say 6 minute per mile pace or faster, 7 minute per mile pace or faster, 8, 10, 12, 15, maybe walkers. Don't be a road boulder. If you're somebody, you really don't have any time goals, you just want to finish, don't be up at the front and rocking the TNT and everybody's having to try to migrate their way around you, and you're there with your bestie side by side. So now the two of you are a road boulder. So just be mindful that there's a place for everybody in the start chute. Mental preparedness for the race. So another one of my credos is visualize success, but anticipate adversity. Okay, what do I mean by that? Visualize how good that day is going to look for you, but know that there are going to be challenges that arise, and some of the challenges will even be unexpected, unanticipated. A professional tournament golfer, before they hit a shot, they actually visualize the flight of the ball and where they want to land it on the green. Figure skaters, you can see them standing by the boards before their music begins and before they skate out to take the ice. They're actually visualizing, where they're going to do all their jumps and spins and combinations and everything. That's what you should be doing in terms of knowledge is power, right? You've prepared yourself, you know what it's going to look like. You want to be able to visualize how you're going to do that successfully. Stated another way, visualize success, anticipate, but do not create adversity, okay? Don't do the stupid things that are going to create the problems for you. And the anticipating adversity is a lot easier to do if you follow the credo of knowledge is power. Again, the more research and preparation and anticipation you have, the less unexpected surprises you're going to anticipate. But control the things that you can control. Don't sweat the things you can't. A variable that you can't control is the weather. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's windy, it's rainy. You're prepared for all that. We've dealt with all of that over the course of the season. You've anticipated that by researching the weather up until the time that you left to head to your race, by bringing all the proper clothes. You're not made of sugar candy. You're not going to melt if it's going to rain. You know that you can handle this. So why fret about it? Why sweat that? And use your inspiration. Again, why am I doing this? What's the cause? Think about the honorary talks that you've heard. Executing the race itself. Slow and steady at the start. Let's talk about pacing. You need to anticipate congestion at the start of the race. Again, San Luis Obispo full. Historically, 700 people in the full. San Luis Obispo half. They have a max of 2,200. They've had maybe 1,800 in any given race. So that's a fair number of people to be around you. You'll get strung out as the race goes on, but there's going to be congestion at the beginning. That actually is a good thing. It should force you to slow down. What was one of the things we talked about at track last night? Except for two people who guessed over by 13 seconds and 2 seconds, every other burrito relay team went faster than they anticipated. And Megan said, see, don't do that in your race. You're all fired up. You go out too fast. You're jumping up.
Action.
Okay. What's the formula for how you damage yourself by going too fast? Using a full marathon. For every 10 seconds per mile that you're too fast in the first 13.1, you will be 40 seconds slower per mile on the back half. So let's do the math on that, okay? So if you have an innate ability to do a full marathon at a 10-minute per mile pace, and you hit the halfway point at 9:50 per mile, the back half you're going to do 10:40s. Let's make it worse than that. You have an innate ability, really your maximum capability of a 10-minute per mile pace on the front half, and you do 9:30s on the first half, just a half a minute faster than your actual ability per mile. You're doing 12s on the backside. That's how much it's going to take out of you, going out too fast. And that's why you need to go conservatively in the early miles. Run, walk, stick with the plan. I've suffered the indignity as I've become a run walker over the years. Gun goes off, I'm 4 minutes in. Who's that wimp? Who's walking? right? Because I'm doing a 4-1. If you're going to do run walk, you got to be committed to it from the very beginning. And, you know, read Galloway's chapter from the book. That's when you're deriving the benefit. Maybe late in the race, you're fresh and go ahead, take off, start ignoring it. One guy who was a training captain with our team for a number of seasons, web captain many seasons before that, had done 3 marathons with team, was heading to Austin to do the full marathon. It was a Tuesday track before his Sunday race. He comes up to me at track and says, "Coach Tim, I want to get faster. What should I do?" I told him, "Slow down and walk." He had never done run walk. Never done run walk. I told him, "Do run walk on Sunday. Do run walk. It's at Austin." Never practiced it once the entire season. He did a run walk at Austin and he PR'd by about 20 minutes. Okay, so it's not, you runners, you have the innate ability to walk as well. You've probably been doing that. Heck, you did that before you started running as a toddler. So you can derive a benefit from it. One thing that I've started doing lately is I've actually recalibrated my run walk ratio late in a full marathon so that it's easier for me. Where I went from a 4-minute, 1-minute ratio to a 3-minute, 1-minute ratio in the last 10 miles. When I did that a year ago, 2 of my 3 fastest miles out of 26 were 2 of the last 3 miles of a full marathon, which is insane. Because I was walking instead of walking 25% or 20% of the time, I was walking 25% of the time. I was walking more, and yet it was amongst my faster miles because it kept me fresh. And because that little Jedi mind trick that happens to you where all of a sudden the walk breaks are getting shorter and all of a sudden the runs are getting longer late in the race because you're exhausted and you're arguing with your watch. Now you've recalibrated things, and for me, it was great. It worked extremely well. In executing the race, again, the shedding of the layers. So I told you that didn't ditch the garbage bag until 10 miles in. You know, it's simply as you get warm enough that you don't need it anymore. Shedding the gloves, shedding that sweatshirt that I was talking about. And that way, you're always keeping yourself relatively comfortable. 8 stations, you need to have a plan how you're going to work your way through them. At San Luis Obispo, they're every 2 to 3 miles. We'll go into more specifics next Tuesday. That's fairly typical. You'll have sport drink and you'll have water. Typically, they'll be in the same order. And you want to plan, what is it that I want from a fluid standpoint? I've been a double cupper, you know, if it's every 2 to 3 miles, where I'll actually do a cup of a sport drink and a cup of the water. You guys have never had fluid before. Maybe that's what you carry on your person, is you carry all your sport drink. Because the reality is you're never going to be able, in a full marathon, to carry all the fluid you need to consume on your person. So at an absolute minimum, you're going to be relying on them for the water for a full marathon. I mean, you're not a camel. You're not going to be able to carry that much fluid. So maybe you're always skipping the sport drink and you're just seeking out the water at every aid station. And San Luis Obispo, supposedly they have signage for the tables telling you which is which. And good race volunteers will actually be calling out what they're holding. Sport drink, water, water. Thank those people. They're volunteers. They're out there for hours. You'll get a nice little charge from thanking them. You're going to be consuming your foods. Some of you folks have a tough time choking down the food gels. Ooh, icky, hate the texture. Instead of basing your food gel consumption based on time. I'm a time person, whatever time interval I choose. Maybe try to figure it out in correlation to the aid stations. Because if you need to wash it down with a fluid to be able to keep it down and to make it digestible for you, plan it so that the aid station's coming up, you've got the packet or some container, you've eaten the gel, you get to the aid station and then you wash it down. If you're using fluid to wash down your gel, don't wash down the gel with a sport drink, because then you're dumping sugar on top of sugar. It's better to wash down the gel with water. There is a technique to those paper cups at the aid stations. If you don't use the technique, drinking from the cups can be like trying to take a drink from a fire hydrant. It's this large cylindrical object and you're pouring it and it's running down your shirt and you're getting cold. Pinch the cup. You pinch it from the sides and now you have a smaller aperture to drink from. Okay? Dealing with the demons. You are going to encounter demons on race day. Maybe it's biorhythms. Maybe it's your given day. We've been telling you taper, 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 taper. A taper can make you feel like crap for a while. So this guy, Tom McGlynn, who's actually run in the U.S. Olympic marathon trials, was telling one of the guys on our team that with an effective taper, you can feel like crap in a full marathon for up to 8 miles. Why? Because you've been making your body do this stuff for 3 or 4 months leading up, and then whoa, 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 whoa. We're telling you taper, half the weekly mileage, half the longest distance. Next week, half the weekly mileage, half the longest distance. So your body's like, okay, well, we're going to go do that thing again. And then you start doing it, it's like, heck, I don't remember this. Up to 8 miles. So don't panic. There's an ebb and flow that happens throughout the marathon. There are times that you feel like you're a deer running through a forest. And 30 seconds later, you're wondering who outfitted you with cement overshoes. And you have no idea why it's happened. It can just switch on a dime on you. And you need to be prepared for that. You've probably had those experiences during your training, where you're feeling great 1 second and you feel absolutely like crap the next minute. And you start thinking about all the variables. You have hilly terrain on a course. You're ingesting fluid. You're ingesting chemicals. You're intaking food. You're getting these psychological boosts. The reason to have your name in really big letters across the front of your shirt, basically you're hoping for literate people out there supporting the race. People who can actually read your name and say it out loud. Because Christina's going to think, everybody loves me, everybody knows me, everyone's my best friend.
They do!
Everybody's yelling, go Christina, great job Christina, and you get a boost out of that. I mean, you really do. That's another thing that's affecting your ebb and flow as the race goes. So when people yell your name, that's a nice psychological boost. Don't jump around like an idiot and burn a bunch of energy. Not that I'm saying you're likely to do that.
No, I am.
Because there's that ebb and flow. So San Luis Obispo, like most races, will provide pacers. These are people that carry signs, say a goal time. Or you have that one running buddy, your bestie, Sally. Oh, I couldn't possibly do my full marathon without Sally. We're sisters, we're in this together every step of the way. There is a big psychological boost for you getting to do it with Sally, absolutely, and I would never diminish that. But if you're, Siamese twins with Sally and you're attached at the hip, you will always slow to what I call the slowest common denominator. Whoever is struggling the most at any given moment is going to dictate the pace. And while Sally's in the porta potty, you might as well be in the porta potty. And while you're in the porta potty, Sally's going to be waiting for you outside. So just realize that there are trade-offs in terms of you're going to stick with somebody every step of the way that may not ultimately long-term benefit how quickly you're going to be able to finish it. Running form. How are we doing time-wise? Wow, this guy can talk. You need to stay loose. I was just looking at a photo of somebody distance running within the last 2 days, and their shoulders were right up about here. Constantly give yourself form checks whenever you think of it. And we haven't talked a whole lot about that, but we've talked about that some during the course of the season. You want to make sure you keep your hands loose, not gripped, not this thing across the chest. You want to keep them nice and relaxed. You want to keep your shoulders loose. And one of the things that I try to consciously do every couple of miles or so is literally shake things out, where I will drop them down to the side, shake them up here, and then bring them back down, and then slowly bring them back up so that they're at about 45 degrees, so I get them into the right position. Now I've gotten some blood into the extremities, and I'm getting back into the proper form. Late in every full marathon, I guarantee you will see the vultures. The vultures are the people whose form has completely broken down, okay? These are the people who, as the race goes on, start doing this. And they are reduced to a pathetic shuffle. And one of the things that it causes is, as their shoulders slump forward, they're compressing on their lungs. So as the shoulders slump forward, you're not able to move as much air. So you're not producing as much oxygen, which means you're not oxygenating your blood, which means you're not getting oxygen into your leg muscles, which means you're going to start cramping. And it's all interconnected, okay? So you just need to be conscious about this. This thing too, you're carrying this big heavy melon out here now. You're putting strain on your spine. So what you want to do is think of the puppeteer who's up above you, and you have that string running through your head, and you want to try to keep yourself upright. You want to be thinking in terms of proper cadence. We've talked a little bit about cadence. You want to keep things moving. Avoid the new age temptations. I don't know that we have any of these coming up on our races in the near future, but I've seen at races this thing called Cool and Fit, where you run through a spray. Nike Women's Marathon actually for a few years had an oxygen bar, where you could go up and take hits of oxygen. Red Bull may give you wings, but I have no idea what it would do to you in a full marathon. And I've seen Red Bull served at marathons. Nike Women's Marathon has the chocolate mile. I assure you, our training captains have never laid out bars of chocolate in any of your aid stations. But desperate times bring desperate measures, and you need to eat, and particularly in the late miles. So maybe a piece of fruit, maybe a bar, maybe something that's going to keep you moving. One of the things that I already mentioned earlier was the sodium and mineral loss. Coaches out on the course will typically be carrying fast food salt packets that we'll steal from McDonald's and places like that. When I was talking about like the leg cramping, a lot of times that's because of sodium depletion. So that's something, obviously you can carry salt on your own, but you need to think about how you're gonna keep yourself provisioned. As the race goes on, you need to break the race into small doses. Every mile marker for me is a little victory. The half marathon mark is a big victory. The 20-mile mark, 10K to go, is a big victory. At 23, I know within a tenth of a mile, it's, hey, I'm down to a 5K. Think in terms of those goals. But in the very late miles, half of the field in a full marathon will break down to the point that the runners, this is where Gil Mitchell starts passing everybody like they're standing still, laughing and scoffing at the runners. You used to be runners back there when you passed me. I hope you're having a good day, because he's still powering along, and these runners who they've not budgeted their effort, and they're reduced to the vulture and the pathetic shuffle. And what you need to do at that point, if you find yourself in that state and you're not able to sustain, okay?
Wave as I go by.
Wave it, Gil. Break it down to the small doses. And I've done this, two of the 3 hour and 16-minute full marathons that I've run in my lifetime, I actually broke down to walk breaks, because I just ran out of gas late in the race. And what I did was, I said, okay, you need to start running again when you get to that mailbox or to that palm tree. Stop. Okay, you did. Yeah, you did. So, if it comes to that, just make, I call them little contracts with yourself, little oral contracts with yourself, where you say, okay, I need to run to that spot, then I know I've earned a walk break, okay? Then once you get there, you start renegotiating with yourself. Ooh boy, yeah, this I'm really beat. But when I get to, and you pick an object and you commit to it, when I get to that spot, I need to run again. And then you renegotiate with yourself. When I get to that next spot, I'm allowed a walk break. And then instead of, I have 4.5 miles to go, I have from here to the mailbox. That's all you need to do. From here to the mailbox. I literally this morning read this lengthy blog from a buddy of mine who scaled the 19,000-foot Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. And it really struck me how similar his approach to that ascent was to completing a marathon. Just break it into small doses. But keep moving forward. You'll see a lot of people at a race on the side, doing a lot of stretching. Every time you're stopped and and stretching. The start line is not getting any further behind you, and the finish line is coming no closer. You're not making any progress. So John Bingham, the Penguin, some of us have heard him talk at Team and Training. He's actually an employee of Leukemia and Lymphoma Society Team and Training. Tells a story about the time that he and his son decided they were going to do the San Diego Rock and Roll Marathon together. His son had never done a marathon before. John started doing marathons like in his late 50s, early 60s. He was a columnist for Runner's World for many years, an incredibly funny guy. So he thought this would be a bonding thing with his son. Not only would they do San Diego Rock and Roll together, but they would ride motorcycles from the East Coast all the way to San Diego together. So they're on the motorcycle ride across the United States, and they're to stop somewhere along the way. And John's son says, Dad, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. What's that, son? I never actually trained for the marathon. What? What were you thinking? How do you think you could do a marathon without training for it? Well, Dad, you can do it. I figured if you can do it, I could do it. During the race, 20 some odd miles in, John's son needs to use the porta potty, goes into the porta potty, flips the latch, sitting on the porta potty. John's, come on, son, we need to go. Son, we need to go. Dad, there's a problem. What's that, son? I can't stand up. He sat down, and the cramping in his legs were so bad that he couldn't stand up. So he can't reach the handle on the porta potty door. So John says, okay, here's what we're gonna do, son. I'm gonna get behind the porta potty, and I'm gonna start rocking it forward. And we're gonna rock it back. We're gonna rock it forward, and when I tell you to go, I need you to lurch forward, hit the door handle, and jump out of the porta potty. And that's what they did. My point being, you want to stop? You're probably going to cramp. And then once you've cramped, good luck getting that stuff moving forward again. As long as you're still moving, the start line's further back, and the finish is coming closer. Pain is temporary. Quitting lasts forever. Asking you to do something that's going to be difficult and painful for 6 hours, 6.5 hours, 7 hours, doesn't compare at all to, say, 2.5 years of a little kid going through chemotherapy. You guys volunteered to do this. Cancer patients didn't choose cancer. Cancer chose them. And what they go through compared to what you're going to do in a quarter of a day, there's no comparison. You can persevere. Enjoy the day. It's your payoff. Dedicate your minds. When I did my first Team and Training event 12 years ago, I fashioned a fabric belt with 26 names on it and dedicated every mile of the race to different honorees, personal honorees of mine, team honorees, a number of names of people who I never met, never heard of before, but who my donors, and I had over 100 individual donors, nominated as their honoree that they wanted me to run in honor of. I printed all, asked for emails, give me anecdotes about these people. I printed emails, I got letters, I brought the honoree bios, I brought them to Chicago, and the night before I just read them and reread them. So that every time I hit a mile mark, I would check my time split to see if I'm on pace to run a Boston qualifier, and who am I running this mile for? And it was an amazing experience. Chopper. He was the cousin of Morgan Taylor. He died when they were both little boys, and that's how Morgan realized kids can actually die. Things like that I carry with me every single mile. As I approached the finish line, and I knew that I was comfortably making a Boston qualifier, it was an extraordinary experience. And I knew that the last mile, once I hit the 25-mile mark, that the last mile was for a little girl named Susie Yee, who was a kindergarten classmate of my younger daughter. So I didn't need to look at the belt when I hit mile 25. And Susie lived here in San Jose, and I'm in Chicago, and I hit the 25-mile mark, and all of a sudden I speed up. And in my mind, with marathoner brain, Susie is holding my hand, running alongside me on the course. And I mean, it was as real as though she was there instead of sitting back here in San Jose. And I mean, I'll remember that till the day I die. So, approaching the finish line, blowing kisses to the sky, making like an airplane, crossed the finish line, rigor mortis set into both of my legs. As I stopped, I began to pitch forward as a volunteer had to grab me because, I mean, I couldn't move anymore. You know, I'd run another Boston qualifier. You know, he's walking me along. Are you okay now, sir? Yeah, I think I can walk. I got about 10 more steps and I started crying like a baby. I was so overwhelmed by the feeling of satisfaction, you know, kind of the pride of the achievement, the sense that Susie, who I got a Chicago finisher's medal for, was going to be okay, and she ended up attending high school with my younger daughter. Think of your inspiration and why you guys are doing this. Road issues. You're going to go run a race someplace we've never let you guys run before. You're going to go play in the street. Now, some of you, probably Jason, heard that a lot when he was growing up. Go play in the street, Jason. And then the parents would actually move the home. Sorry, I mean, it's true. I know it's traumatic. You're out running in the freaking street. There are bots dots out there. Those are trip hazards.
Wait, there are what?
Bots dots. They're named after Mr. Bots, who invented them. They're the little raised buttons that have reflectors on them so that as you're driving your car, they're elevated. You can trip over one of those suckers and take a header. So don't be running right down the middle of the lane where I'm constantly thumping into bots dots, just like the painted lines, particularly if it's a foggy day. You know, they're supposed to be slip resistant, but paint can be slippery. Potholes, depending where you are, you know, rural part of San Luis Obispo, they're not going to be concerned about potholes. You can obviously fall in those. The roads are canted and have camber to them so that they can drain. Roads are not supposed to be flat. Unless you happen to have one leg that's 1 inch shorter than the other, and this is really comfortable for you, try to seek out a flatter part of the road. And watching for hazards. One year I ran the Wharf to Wharf in Santa Cruz. We were approximately 100 yards into the race, running down Beach Street in front of the beach boardwalk. And the person in front of me suddenly went like this. I'm running right along the curb line, not knowing that there was a notched drainage inlet right into the concrete gutter, and I find myself dropping this far like that on my next step. Go down in a heap, hop up, keep going, dust yourself off. Watch for road hazards. There are going to be support people out there. For those of you at Nike DC, that'll be me. for those of you at San Luis Obispo, Megan, Adam, maybe some other nice people that go down and volunteer. You need to decide how to use those people. If you're at a race and Coach Tim's the one who's coming up to you and you've had to listen to him give a 1 hour and 38-minute talk 11 days before your race and never want to hear him speak again, you can tell him, no, I'm doing great, go away. Or run alongside me, but shut the hell up. I don't want to hear a sound come out of your pie hole, okay? Just run alongside me. Use the support people as you can use them best. There is a phenomenon that I describe as marathoners' Tourette's. You know your bestie, Susie, you know, who you trained with all season.
Sally.
Or Sally. I did go Sally last 2 times. Okay, Sally, we'll go with Sally. Sally decides, 19 miles into the race, that she hates you. And Sally, who's never used a profane word, is now saying stuff that would make a sailor's parrot blush. You have not heard the kind of vile language coming out of, like the story that Chris was telling of himself last night at Hang with the Gang, in terms of how disagreeable of a person he was to be around late in a full marathon. Just be prepared for that too. People can change a little bit in late stage of a marathon. As you approach the finish, okay, hey, Hannah Gallery, are we trying to make 10:15 after all?
You blew it a long time ago.
Celebrate the accomplishment. If I'm supporting you out on a marathon course, I'm going to peel off well before you finish. Because the finish is all about you. It's about you and what you've accomplished, and think about that. When you get to the finish line, the worst finish photo in history is this one right here. Okay? It's chip timed. They'll let you know how you did. You can hit the button when you're 10 feet further down, okay, and subtract 3 seconds, okay? You don't need to do that at the finish line. Hey, he's actually getting close to finish. He got to the finish of the race. Post-race. This is only, we're within 45 minutes, really. Okay, most races these days, since the chip's embedded in your bib, they don't need to do anything. But some races, they tear off the bottom or cut off a tiny chip, so let them do that. Team and training event, check in at the team and training finish tent. If I'm supporting a race and you haven't checked in and you're back at the hotel and you're on your 3rd cocktail, and I'm still out on the course looking for you, I will be bitterly disappointed that I don't see your bloody carcass on the side of the road. Okay? I just want you to know that. Because the coaches and the manager can't leave until you're accounted for. Oh, and you want to go to the finisher's tent because you want to get your really cool TNT finisher's pin. Yeah, that's why you're going. Not because you care about your coaches at all. So immediately within that first half hour, you're replenishing all that stuff you've lost. Fluid, carbohydrate, protein. Start scarfing stuff down. Take an ice bath. Plan your own victory celebration with your teammates. Obviously, you should have planned that in advance, but get together, celebrate this incredible common accomplishment that you've all done at the venue. We will send you a recovery calendar, your coaches, in terms of the stuff that you're supposed to do in the week that follows. Dash off those, thank you, that's me typing, thank you, thank you. That's how I type, with claws.
I pictured you more of a...
Send thank yous, I'm handwriting off, beautiful handwritten notes to all your donors. You know, tell them how great you did and what their assistance meant to you. We will have an all-team wrap-up party. We're looking at a May date at this point. And then come back to team and training as an alum or maybe as a volunteer staff mentor. And with that, believe it or not, I'm out.